2, 1.
Welcome to the Fourth Line Podcast, part of Full Press Radio. It is early, Nick. It is early.
Good morning. Good morning. It's the morning podcast.
A May 23rd, holiday Monday morning podcast. One of us has clearly had all of their coffee this morning. One is about to break a podcasting rule and take their first sip.
Is that a rule?
I think you shouldn't slurp coffee on microphone. Yeah, that seems like something our listeners probably aren't into.
Maybe we should do the mornings more often because I'm like hyped up. I'm on my third cup of coffee.
What? Yeah, I'm gonna have to see if I can get a second one brought to me in the middle. Maybe during our intermission break, where we do ads, I'll have to go get another cup.
Okay, then you can catch up to me.
Because you're definitely going to be dragging us forward. Because I woke up about 30 minutes ago and said, "Why is my alarm going off? What is happening?" And this better be worth it. And you know what? I think it is, because it's going to be a good show.
It's going to be a good show, Carl. It's a beautiful day. And the hockey this week has been great.
It has been lots. Since we've been there, every series has finished 3 games. So we're probably, for most of these, halfway through the series. And some surprising, I would say every series has had something pretty substantially surprising happening in it. Let's start with Tampa and Florida. That series is 3-0 for the Tampa Bay Lightning up on the Florida Panthers.
Yeah. Is the surprising thing in this one that Tampa's up 3-0?
Yes, that Florida has just decided to fully and completely not show up.
It is very strange because I had Florida all the way in this series. Like, no doubt in my mind. The way Tampa looked against Toronto, I thought there was no chance they're beating Florida with that kind of demeanor. And here we are. Florida seems to be playing down to their level.
Is that it? Or is Tampa just actually still really good? Because what the biggest issue that you mentioned last week with Tampa was that lack of swagger that was missing, right? That they didn't have that playoff Stanley Cup fever buzz. And it is fully on display now.
Yeah, I think they've definitely built it up, especially in the opening games against the Panthers. Like, I watched a little bit of the game yesterday on Sunday, that weird afternoon game. And they looked very, very good. I thought Vasilevsky also looked very, very good. And after one sequence where the Panthers just peppered them with shots, I think they were on the power play, which we should talk about in a minute. I thought to myself, like, if the Panthers if they decide they can't beat him, then they're never they have to be able to convert on some of those wild flurries of chances. And they're just not. Vasilevsky seems to be all over the crease.
Yeah, Vasilevsky has been playing outstanding for Tampa, and I think that'll become a pretty big trend in each of these series so far, right? The second round has really been defined in a big way by good and bad goaltending.
Yes, it certainly has. In some cases by the same goalie.
Absolutely right. So you mentioned the power play, though.
One power play goal in the entire playoffs so far, I think.
But they got it. They finally did it.
Yeah, but then they didn't do it again.
Okay, that's a pretty high bar you're setting. 2 power play goals in the playoffs, Nick? Come on.
Like, I feel like we said this in the Tampa Bay playoff preview when we talked about this team. This team takes a lot of penalties. If you cannot convert on the power play against them, you are not going to beat them because they're too good at 5-on-5.
Right.
So, like, one power play goal out of how many, I don't have yesterday's box score up, but however many power play attempts they had, it's not good enough.
No, it's very much not. Yesterday there was, they don't actually show this neatly on this box.
I know.
3 yesterday.
Okay.
The previous game. My goodness. This this internet is working as slowly as a guy who woke up and is just finishing his first cup of coffee.
It doesn't matter. There were power play attempts in the other games.
There were, yes, they existed.
They've
had 10 power play opportunities so far. So even in this series alone, 10%, 0 against Washington, which I believe at one point we said, one of us, I don't remember who it was, said that Florida will not advance in the playoffs if they don't score a power play goal. And they managed to. They managed to like come back and look pretty strong against Washington, but not against Tampa.
No, I mean, Tampa's a substantially better team than Washington is. But all that being said, they've been exciting games. Like this Battle of Florida it's good hockey. It's fun to watch. But Tampa's just they're outdoing them. They need Bobrovsky to be on Vasilevsky's level.
And he hasn't been, right?
No,
there has not been a single game. Really, I mean, there have been a few moments in this entire playoff that Bobrovsky has looked like a goalie that could steal a game, but at no point has he looked like that right now.
No, and they need him to pick it up, but they also need their forwards to score goals because, as we know, scoring goals wins hockey games.
Yeah, from what I've understood so far this playoffs, you have to score more goals than the other team to win.
That's right.
Okay. So let's take a look then. It is 3-0 Tampa. I would say it seems at this point more likely that Tampa sweeps than it even goes to 7 games. Would you agree?
Yes. It's not going 7.
What is it going?
5. I could see Florida stealing 1.
So Florida wins tonight's Monday night game, and then
that's it.
Then thank you for coming out.
Yeah, I think so. It's not. I don't see them getting out of the series at this point.
Yeah, I definitely don't see. I mean, when was the last time? I'm not sure there has been a time where we've had a team make it out of the second round after being down 3-0.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's very, very rare that it happens.
Yeah. So I mean, even outside of the fact that they're down 3-0, right? If you were to wipe this slate clean, to say that Florida was going to win 4 games in a row against Tampa isn't going to happen. So unfortunately, right? I guess we've got Tampa moving on, most likely. What do you think? I mean, with what we saw from Tampa in the first round, what have you noticed that other than Vasilevsky stealing the show, what have you noticed that's different about them than what they had in a struggle to get past the Leafs?
Well, you mentioned their swagger. They just seem to be playing tighter hockey. Like they're on the puck faster. They're keeping the Panthers to the outside. Like even, I come back to the power play because it's one part that I was watching very closely. The Panthers could not get to the middle of the ice. They could not get the puck into the slot on the power play. The Lightning are keeping them to the outside. They're blocking shots. Like Nikita Kucherov is taking pucks to the knees.
What game was it where Stamkos, Chernak, I forget who else. There was like 2 or 3 other guys who all left the game at various points because of taking pucks, taking shots, taking pucks to the face, and you'd think that would slow them down, and it doesn't.
No, it surely doesn't. These guys have number 3 on the brain.
The third round
and third cup, just like the amount of cups of coffee I've had this morning.
I've now had 3 sips of coffee. Do I have more energy yet?
Well, you actually do seem you've perked up a little.
That's good.
When was the last time a team won 3 cups in a row? Is it? I want to say like the Oilers, the 80s Oilers, maybe.
It's either. I mean, it's back that far, right?
It is back that far.
The Oilers before that, the Islanders, right? They won their 4 in a row.
Yeah, so the Islanders won 4 in a row, and then immediately after that, I think the Oilers went and won 3. And then since then, it hasn't happened.
I mean, even back to back is a challenge in this day, right? To be able to repeat in a salary cap era with as many teams as we have right now, it's very difficult.
It's tough, but Tampa seems to be on their way. I was not a believer after their first round, but they're turning me into one.
Very much so. I mean, I was a believer at the start of the playoffs, right? They were my pick to make it to the final.
Yep.
But
like you said, never bet against the defending Stanley Cup champs.
Don't bet against them until they're done.
Yep.
Because
then you can't bet on them.
Very good point, Nick. Very, very true.
Okay, so we've got Florida out. Who's our next series?
Florida is out. Next one up is the Colorado Avalanche and the St. Louis Blues. Colorado is up 2-1 in this series. Game number 4 also goes tonight, Monday night, in St. Louis. This one has a lot to unpack.
So from here on out, I think the rest of the series have gotten very spicy in these third games.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think the Colorado one is a notch above the others. Because in game 3, we saw first the Avalanche lose one of their defensemen, Samuel Girard.
We can't. Okay. No, you finish your thoughts. Sorry.
And then it was followed up. We'll come back. I know you have thoughts. And then it was followed up by the Blues losing their playoff goalie, Jordan Binnington. Both players are out for at least the remainder of the series.
Yes. Girard is out for the rest of the playoffs, no matter what.
Correct.
Turns out that when you break your sternum, that is an important bone in your body for movement. I cannot imagine how it would feel to break your sternum, by the way. That has, because it's not like they're casting a like, I'm sure he just has like when you break a rib, right? They don't like really do a lot unless it's like really broken.
Yeah.
So you kind of just like, all right, sit around, Sam.
Let it heal.
But that hit, right? Unfortunate. And just like the way that he landed, like when he first took the hit, I think a lot of people thought it was a concussion because he was bleeding from the face.
Yeah. I actually thought it was a neck thing because he didn't move. Like he didn't get up. And the way he got smushed against the boards, it looked bad. And it was kind of scary, actually. When someone doesn't get up like that, it's not a good thing.
When you see someone sprawled face first on the ice.
Yeah.
It's not good. Then, I mean, luckily he got up on all fours and slowly made his way off. But not a dirty hit. I mean, unfortunate, but I think Barbashev laid the hit. I don't think there was anything, I mean, certainly no intent in that, but also I don't think that there was anything inappropriate about it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it was just unfortunate. It was bad luck. He's kind of a short guy and he was kind of leaning forward, so he was a little lower, but there wasn't any like direct head contact that I remember. Just got crushed in a bad way.
Exactly. Yeah. And the second one, this is where I have several thoughts about several things that have happened in this series.
Tell us all your thoughts, Carl. That's what we're here for.
So in that incident, right, Jordan Binnington in the net, Calle Rosen, Nazem Kadri racing back for the puck, which is sitting near Binnington.
Yep.
They both go colliding into him. I want to fast forward, rewind. I want to rewind back. My brain's slowly starting to figure out things. It's taking a minute, but we're getting there. I want to rewind back to game 2. Avalanche on the penalty kill. Nichushkin gets a breakaway, or a mostly breakaway, Justin Falk ties him up, and they both go colliding into Jordan Binnington. Goaltender interference called, 5-on-3, Blues score. In both of those situations, you have Blues defenders tying up or even leading the charge of an Avalanche player into their own goalie. You, in one situation, got a bogus garbage penalty call that led to a 5-on-3. In the other situation, you've got an injured goalie. The Blues, I mean, I watched it happen in game 2 and I was like, that was dumb of him to do that. And I'm upset about the penalty. And I watched it in game 3. I said, that was dumb of him to do that. You just hurt your goalie. And I'm glad that they changed that that's not a penalty this time. But still, someone's got to talk to those defensemen. Stop running into your own goalie. Stop bringing players in. Like, stop drawing everyone in to our goaltenders. It's not you drawing a penalty because, yeah, Binnington sure flopped in game 2, but it wasn't a flop. He's out. He's probably out for the rest of the playoffs, even if the Blues advance. So they've got to figure out what they're doing because it's not a sustainable model there.
Yeah, I think this is it for the Blues. I think this is the end of it. But you're right. And actually, I think that's it's a problem that a lot of the league suffers from all year. These defensemen pushing people into their goalies, whether it's on, it's not on purpose, obviously, but in the playoffs, everything's moving so much more faster. Like this collision to me, I think was more a case of the game moving so fast than any of these two players pushing each other into the goalie. Like it just all they all collided together. I don't really think there was intent on anyone's side. Again, same as Girard, it's unfortunate what happened to Binnington. Did they say what his injury was?
Knee.
It's it's unfortunate. It sucks. Like you pointed out, it's two different extremes of a situation, right? In game 2 and in game 3. I just don't see how the Blues come back from this one.
Well, Ville Husso was the better goalie in the regular season. Wasn't good against the Wild, right? And so I think, again, we've seen Binnington be pretty hot and cold as a goalie, but kind of his entire career, right? There's a reason that he came into the league very late. And so that's kind of who he is. Right now, he is red hot, and he was the goalie that could take them further.
Yeah.
I saw nothing in game 3 that shows me that Husso is ready to take that step. But giving him the benefit of the doubt, he also came in ice cold. Right? Wasn't warmed up. And so I'm not going to fully, say, well, he's not good because of one game where you weren't the starter. But he needs to figure that out because there is no one else, right? No one else is coming in. You are the guy now. And he was very much not the guy against the Wild.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? Like the regular season doesn't matter anymore. It's a whole other beast now. But when you have a guy who starts like that in the first round and loses the net to somebody who then comes in and in the games that he's played posts a 949 save percentage, like that's big confidence that you have in Binnington. That's the kind of confidence that allows you to play a little more loose in front of him. And
Very
losing that safety net, apologize for the pun, but losing that is not it. The whole team is going to be more anxious. They're going to tighten up, and it's going to lead to bigger mistakes in front of Husso.
Well, and one thing I give Mike Smith a lot of garbage for his playment of the puck, but the way that Jordan Binnington has been playing the puck this series has done an incredible job taking away one of the Avalanche's main skills. Because when they dump the puck in, they're fast, right? They'll get there, but he comes out oftentimes and plays that puck behind the net. Another thing that the Blues are doing is moving some guys out, right? You talked about how Tampa is not getting, or sorry, how Florida is not getting that middle of the ice, right? The Blues are actually taking away more of the outside. They're not letting some of those quick defensemen to come wrap around the boards like the Avalanche are used to. And so now they don't have a guy who's as comfortable or as good at playing the puck. So now you have to kind of change how you're setting up. You're not able to take that away. And so I think this is going to be, unless Husso, kind of makes that adjustment as well, we're going to see the Avalanche be able to take the zone with much greater success than they have been so far.
Yeah. I totally agree. That's a good analysis of the Blues side. What about the Avs? What are you seeing there? Who's the standout for you?
I think what's been interesting is because of that defensive issues, right, that they've been able to take those away. Cale Makar has been very invisible this series. Outside of him also running into goalies, I've been really impressed with what Kadri's been doing this series. He's been he's been all over the place. Kind of the role players, right? Like they've done a good job. McKinnon's been good, but not great. It's kind of, you've got Landeskog, you've got Kadri, you've got Nikushki, you've got kind of those group of players that have been doing a great job this series.
How about my boy Darren Helm on the forecheck?
Darren, that fourth line's been doing well, right?
I love it. I heard his name way more than I ever expected to while watching an Avalanche game.
Yes. And arguably more than you should.
And probably more than I should, but that guy's got so much hustle.
Yeah, he's definitely showing up there. His line scored, right? Logan O'Connor came in that game on that line, scored the opening goal. I think that was the opening goal for that game. So, yeah, they've been really, really impressive. I think with this change in net, I would be surprised. I mean, I would say Avs and 6 seems generous for the Blues.
That does seem generous. I was going to say Avs and 5.
I do want to very briefly talk about the water bottle incident, though.
Yeah, tell us about the water bottle incident.
So after the game, Nazem Kadri's being interviewed by, I don't know, TNT, ESPN, whoever was showing the game. He's being interviewed after the game. And an interesting choice. I mean, obviously the one that they want, right? That's the Avs player who's impressed, but also ran into Binnington. In the middle of this interview, Binnington throws a water bottle at Kadri.
So can you place us in this a little bit? Where is this interview taking place? On the bench?
In like the tunnels underneath the stands.
This is even better.
Right? So, which means the Avs have their side, the Blues have their side, right? And so they've got the backdrop set up. He's sitting on a stool, presumably, doing his interview. And halfway through the interview, he goes, he just threw a water bottle at me. And then it just kind of ends, right? Like they don't really talk about it, but turns out Binnington just must have gotten word. Hey, Kadri's in the hallway doing an interview. Like, this is your chance. Comes over and is throwing stuff at him.
But like, that's the most Binnington thing ever.
It's very Binnington,
right? Like how it's almost like in his head, he goes, how can I act like a baby over this?
What is the most childish thing that I could do right now? That's it. I got it.
And that's what I think of when I think of Jordan Binnington.
Even in game 2 with the goalie interference penalty, I don't know if you saw it live, but he came skating out to the ice, like to center ice, like to the group of people, and was applauding. Sometimes it works, sometimes it pays off. But when you are the injured goalie throwing things at people, unreal.
Good look.
I am definitely disappointed with the hatred that's come out towards Kadri online. I don't know how much you've seen of that. But turns out people are still awful.
Yeah. I heard a little bit about it. Look, here's my thing. Like, I know we're all fans and fandom can get intense. The highs are very high, the lows are very low. There's a bit of a like, what do you call it? Like a gang mentality there when a bunch of people uh start thinking the same things and feeling the same way. But at the end of the day, guys, this is a game. Like, we're just playing a game here. It's nobody wants to see anybody get hurt. And nobody should be making any kinds of threats against anybody. We're just playing a game.
It's a good note to go to a break on, Nick. So we'll be back on the other side, breaking down the rest of the series. Three, two, one.
Nothing like some Avs talk to get you going. Hey, Carl.
You know,
you seem very awake now.
That's a way to wake a person up for sure, is to talk about my Avalanche. But it's time now to talk about the other two series. Let's start out east again. Carolina Hurricanes, New York Rangers, another series tied up at 2-1. In this one, it's the only series so far, and the only series at all, that the home team has won every game. Carolina took the first two in Carolina. Now it's shifted back to New York, and the Rangers came back in game 3 and won that one.
I mean, Carolina's only won at home in these playoffs.
I did not realize that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the case. I mean, I don't have that stat in front of me, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. They have not won on the road. So that's a problem that they're going to have to figure out pretty soon if they want to go deep in these playoffs.
That is interesting. Can we camp on that for a quick second?
Absolutely.
Do you think that is, because to me, right, the biggest home ice advantage is the change, right? You get last change, you get the matchups that you want. Do you think that is a thing of the Hurricanes doing a very good job at home of getting the matchups they want, or not being able to make that adjustment on the road to counteract what you're seeing from the other team?
I think it's the latter. And the reason I think that is because in that Boston series, in the games that Boston won, that Marchand, Pasternak, Bergeron line dominated those games. And that's a result of them getting the matchups that they wanted.
Yeah. I hear that.
So that's what I think.
You got to do one of those things. I mean, we saw it in, what game was it that I was watching this week? I think it was the Blues Avs game. Maybe it was game 2. But like we saw that a lot, right? Where you put out just one player from that line to make that, as the road team, you put a one player from a line, probably like, I think it was Ryan O'Reilly that they would toss out there to get that McKinnon matchup. And then just based on what happens, pull them off real quick, right? Something that you need to be able to do. Things like that are going to help you get through those series when you're on the road.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think they'll get through it. Like, Rod Brandamore is a good coach. He's got a good team. The one thing about this Hurricanes team that I've started to notice as I've watched them in the playoffs, like, we know Tampa has the swagger that comes from being a 2-time Stanley Cup champion. That's a whole other level. But Carolina doesn't feel like they have a ton of confidence. They always feel like they're just kind of skating on the edge. They had a couple, I wouldn't even call them blowouts in Boston, but they had some good score differentials in Boston. But with New York, they have not blown the lid off of this team.
Well, that was one thing I was going to mention. So they are, of teams still in the playoffs, they have the fewest goals against per game.
Hurricanes do.
The Hurricanes do.
Yeah.
Followed shortly by, like, they're at 2.4, Colorado's 2.43, Tampa's 2.7. So like kind of those, and then the Blues are 2.78, right? All these teams that are still in the playoffs, as much as we've seen some crazy games so far, the teams that are still in it are the teams that have stopped the fewest goals, because I know we said that you need to score more than the other team, but you also need to let in less than you score.
Yes, that is true.
So that's how you win hockey games.
I feel like you're just taking the analyses that I make, Carl, and repurposing them for yourself.
Yes, absolutely. That's what I'm doing. I mean, look, it's 9 a.m. for you. It is 7 a.m. for me. And I'm halfway through a podcast already. So
you're doing great. You are doing absolutely great. The other fun stat about the Hurricanes in these playoffs, of all the teams that are left, they are the only team that's been averaging under 30 shots per game.
Well, so that was, thank you for repurposing my thought.
Is that where you were going?
Extending it. Yes. You didn't know that, but you did. But goals, right? They're not scoring very much either, right? They're winning by on average, half a goal per game. The only team in the playoffs with the Panthers and Flames both have negative goal differentials so far this playoffs. That's not great. But as a team that's a favorite, right? Like that's not a big difference. Actually, Rangers have a negative goal differential too. There are some teams that have struggled in some games. But they don't, right? And I think that's what happens with this swagger, right? Tampa, when they're on it, when Tampa is cooking, they're putting up, 5 goals like they did yesterday, right? Winning 5-1. When Carolina's on it, they're winning 3-1, maybe 4-1, right? But and that third goal is an empty netter.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it comes down to, is they don't play that high scoring, high pace. Well, they do play a pretty, they can be high pace, but they're not, right? They have some guys who have that speed, but like you said, averaging the fewest shots, and also giving up. I don't have that stat in front of me here. Shots against per game, they are giving up one of the fewest, right?
Yeah,
30 shots per game. So kind of in both of those ways, they're not playing high event hockey though, from either side. So,
and they should be, because we're looking at this shots against column. The Rangers, out of all the remaining teams in the playoffs, allow the most shots per game. So that seems to me to be an area that you should take advantage of, Carolina.
Absolutely.
Take more shots.
Get in there. Well, and they did yesterday, right? If we look to game 3, game that the Rangers won, they outshot them. I believe they had 35 shots in that game, but Shesterkin showed up big time.
He back.
No question. That was Vezina level goaltending that they got from him yesterday.
Yeah. And he won them that game. He stole them that game.
For sure. So where do you think? Because as you mentioned, Carolina not able to win on the road yet this playoffs. And I'd say, this was the 4th game on the road that they've lost. A pretty significant sample size. Where do you think this series heads next? I
still think Carolina's going to win the series. I don't know. I think this is the biggest toss-up series that's left. I still think Carolina's going to win. I think they're going to do it in 7. Yeah, this definitely feels like a 7-gamer. Even with that being said, then that probably means that Carolina continues to just win at home and lose on the road. That's essentially where I went with that. Yeah. Like Carolina doesn't figure that out. But what I think that we can see, because of both of these teams playing so closely, with Shesterkin being able to, when you play such narrow margin games like the Hurricanes tend to do, even in the regular season, it was more substantial, right? They were getting more scoring regular season than they are now, because regular season, they were top 10 in scoring in the league. Like, this isn't a team that can't score. I don't want to give that impression. But right now, when you're up against a team like the Rangers that can keep the puck out, right, and can keep you outside. These were the 2 lowest scoring teams regular season, or fewest goals against in the regular season, these 2 teams. A 3-1 game yesterday with the empty netter being there seems like the expectation every single game. Yeah, I would think so. You know what though? They've had my favorite overtime game of the playoffs so far because it only lasted like 60 seconds.
That transitions nicely into this. Can you tell the story of how you missed every goal? On what day was that? Tuesday? Wednesday? Game 2 day of Rangers and Flames. Can you tell that story?
Yeah. So I was watching, I think it was Wednesday. I was at home watching hockey, and these games start overlapping a little bit because the one game's going to overtime, and I got stuff going on at home. Stuff going on. You're going to figure out what.
Busy guy, right? There's a lot of moving parts in Nick's life. He's got to sort that all out.
Busy guy. So on a commercial break, what I do is I get up to grab a beverage from the fridge. These are the busy things I'm talking about that I've got going on in my life.
Look, I get it, right? We all get thirsty.
So and I leave the room and there's a commercial on. So I go to get a beverage. I open the fridge, grab my beverage out of the fridge, come back into the living room. Game's over. I'm like, what? How did I must have left on the last commercial of the break for that to happen.
And listeners don't know, but you have a massive house. It's a bit of a journey from you to get from the TV all the way to the kitchen. So understandable.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Not quite, Carl. Let's not mislead people. So anyway, so I'm like, oh man, crap. I can't believe I've missed that overtime goal because the whole period lasted like 37 seconds or something crazy. And then they switched to the Calgary Edmonton game. And so as they're doing their post-game thing and sending it over to Edmonton, I'm like, okay, I gotta go switch the laundry. So I run downstairs. I move the laundry from the washing machine into the dryer. I push the start, these dryers is just like you push the start button and it goes. So I push the start button, run back upstairs. It's 2-0 Calgary.
And you missed 1 minute of that game probably too.
Yeah. It was 19 on the clock still when I came back.
Yeah.
And there were 2 goals scored. At that point, I was like, you know what? I should just give up. I don't get to see any of the goals.
I think what we realized is you did stop watching because every time you stop watching that night, goals were scored. And goals were scored that night.
Oh, were they ever? Was that the 9-6 game?
That was the 9-6 game.
Oh, yeah. I think I went to bed that night. It was 3-1. And I was like, this feels over.
So I went to bed. I also almost called it when it was 6-2 Flames. They blew that lead. They scored twice in the first minute. They went up, as you mentioned, I believe it was 4-1. They were up. Then they were up. That was when Mike Smith finally 2 goals in the first minute wasn't enough to get him booted from the game. 4-1 was Mikko Koskinen comes in. Flames blow the lead, tied at 6, and then come back and play. The first moment of good-looking hockey was in that third period from the Flames. It was miserable. 3 goalies played in that game. Only one of them had a save percentage above 800.
That's an amazing stat. I really liked waking up the next morning and looking at the score. And I was like, what happened there? So I look at the box score. Like Matthew Tkachuk had a hat trick. 2 players had multiple goals, 2 goals. Connor McDavid had like 16 points because he figured in on every goal on both sides somehow.
It was really impressive what he was able to do for the Flames that game.
Just wild. Okay, but seriously, jokes aside, Connor McDavid is next level. Like this guy he's leading the entire playoffs in points right now with 23. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Second is Leon Draisaitl with 19. So, those guys play together. So it's kind of expected that it's not that surprising that they're close in points. The next closest guy is Kucherov with 15. Like McDavid almost has 10 more points than the next closest guy in these playoffs.
He has 50% more points than a player not on his team.
It is insane. 23 points in 10 games. He's just dominant.
And then, you want to follow that up right behind them, right, is Evander, who's also playing on that line now, stacking that McDavid, Draisaitl, Evander Kane line. Looking to last night, you talked about the Kachuk hat trick in game one. We had the Evander hat trick last night. And just what this team can do when they have really just McDavid cooking. That's really all that they need offensively.
Yeah. I mean, this guy can just decide to turn it on and he can win them hockey games.
It does seem very Switch-like for him, right? They're like, oh, I'm going to go do this now. And because he makes it, I think it's because of how easy he makes it look, right? Mm-hmm. It looks very easy and like, oh, you should just do that all the time, which clearly isn't possible, or else he would. Right? He's not dumb. He also knows that he should do that all the time.
Yes. Yes, he should. He knows that.
Yes. I know that it is a garbage stat, but I think it speaks a lot to what he's done so far this playoffs. His plus minus. He is plus 16 through 10 games. And plus minus is a terrible stat, but in a small sample size like this, I think that speaks volumes.
Well, yeah. And especially like comparably, no one else is even close to him.
No.
Like Kucherov, who's the next highest scorer that's not an Oiler, is even plus minus. Like he's a 0.
Yeah, that was what you get when you play a tough first series like they had in Toronto.
Okay, McDavid is plus 16. That's wild.
Yeah.
Talking about swagger though, Mr. Evander Kane. Hey, nice, good of him to score a hat trick, but man, that guy sells hard all the time. Hey.
No matter, he's got one speed, and it's Evander speed. It's the only way to describe it. The change that we've had in him this season, from what we talked about earlier, the controversies, right? Those haven't. I mean, I guess in a lot of people's minds, they've gone away, but they're still there, right? Those issues that we had, there was the gambling, the lying about vaccinations, all of that is still, I mean, maybe he's moved on from it, maybe he hasn't, but it's all the same season still that all of this has happened.
He was a Shark at the start of this season.
He was cut. He was a free agent that no one had signed, and Edmonton showed up.
Yeah. He's a good hockey player. That's the one thing, like, that hasn't changed either. He's good. He's a good hockey player. You put him on a line with Connor McDavid, he's a better hockey player.
A talented scorer, right? Especially when he's not the guy. And we knew that. We knew that in San Jose. We know that now. And him coming, I think when we signed, if I think back, right, the thought was, well, come to Edmonton, fix your career, get on McDavid's line, and then you can get paid afterwards. Right. The Evander Kane image restoration project has been a success.
Oh, yeah. And it's not done yet. I mean, we'll see what the outcome of this series is, but, the Flames are not running away with this one as much as I thought they would be.
Well, not only are they not running away with it, they're not even leading this series. Right. And after watching the Flames in Dallas and seeing how they were able to completely shut down what the Stars were trying to do, we turn to this series, and even though the Flames won game one, they have been playing the style of hockey that the Oilers want this entire time.
Explain.
So the Oilers want it wide open, right? They want to be able to get Evander through. They want to be able to, have that space created. Whereas the Flames want to play disciplined hockey, right? The Oilers thrive on mistakes as a team, right? Like you give them just a small amount of margin and McDavid's gone, right? And Evander's gone. And I mean, Draisaitl's a little banged up and hurt, but like typically he'd be gone, right? Like they thrive on those mistakes. Whereas the Flames have been giving them that. You looked at that first series and, what, 1 or 2 even strength goals scored per game. Well, there was 15 goals scored in game number 1 of the series. There was 8 goals scored in game number 2. And then a relatively small amount of 5 goals scored. Right? That's a typical NHL game. That's slightly under average. So yeah. But the Oilers won that one too, because the Flames made a lot of mistakes. And this is not what we've seen from them all season. They played really sound hockey, and not anymore.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't been without their chances. Like, look, I don't get to see a lot of this series because I'm old and I fall asleep. But the first periods, the Flames have looked actually pretty good in my eyes. They seem to kind of be all over the offensive zone. It feels like they can't get back fast enough. Like the Oilers transition very well and very quickly. And once they're gone, like guys like McDavid and Draisaitl, they're gone. Like if you're not already there, then you've lost them. So it feels like a lot of pressure in the offensive zone and then scrambling to get back and catch the Oilers coming in the other way.
I very much agree with that, which doesn't help Jacob Markstrom at all, right?
No.
He is, for someone who had a very good regular season, this series, and a good first round, right? A great first round. This series, he somehow, first series, was the worst goalie because Jake Ottinger was amazing. Somehow he's still the worst goalie in this series, and Mike Smith is in the other net.
He had a great game last night, Mike Smith.
That was, tell us your thoughts on Mike Smith last night.
That was something. You mentioned earlier about how he likes to play the puck. There was one replay that they kept showing where he made a save and the Flames were still rushing at him, and he decided to play the puck. So he stopped it. He could have covered it, and he decided to play the puck out, and he passed it right onto Tkachuk's stick, and Tkachuk shot it, and he made an amazing save in his glove. But I was like, dude, why are you playing that puck? Just smother it. There's 3 red shirts coming at you.
No, he can't not. He has a counter in his head, and he's only allowed to be touching the puck for 3 seconds. And more than that, and that puck's going to explode.
Well, he turned away, 30 something shots yesterday.
Yeah.
Pretty good performance from him. There's the whole incident with Milan Lucic coming marching in and destroying him against the boards behind the net.
Again, playing the puck, right? Another time where he's out doing things that aren't goalie things.
Yes, absolutely. But this was not a case of Milan Lucic racing against a defenseman and the defenseman pushing him into the goalie.
No, absolutely not.
He straight up body checked the goalie.
Which in the net, not okay. If you're playing the puck, I know that there's question marks around that as a whole. I think if a goalie's playing the puck outside of his net, he is fair game to be hit. But
that's not whether or not that's how the rule book can be interpreted. That's not how they play the game. It never is. You don't touch the goalie, right?
I'm with you, but
I think the problem is that goalies know and think that they can't be touched, and therefore they don't brace themselves to be hit. And that's where injuries can happen.
Absolutely. Right. And he did come back. He was gone for a very short amount of time. That might have been the smallest injury leave I've ever seen in a game.
Well, it was a concussion protocol, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So they yanked him out.
And he's like, I'm fine. And I'm like, I'm fine. And he just walked back out there.
Yeah. And then the Flames scored.
Surprise. Milan Lucic is not one that I will sit here and defend and say he doesn't cross lines, because he very clearly does. But I think at that point in time, right, Mike Smith's got to be, especially when you play the puck and leave your crease as much as that, he needs to act a little less indignant when someone hits him.
Yeah, fair.
This series not tied because they played 3 games, literally impossible. I mean, I guess neither team deserved to win in that first game, so that's probably what I was thinking. It's just wild when you give up 6 goals and win by 3. What a world.
In the playoffs, no less.
In the playoffs, you have a series lead after doing that. Oilers up 2-1. Where do you think this one ends?
Oh man, I want to say 7. I think that's what I put in my bracket too. I think it's going to go 7. I'm not as confident in the Flames anymore.
They've given us. They have given us a lot of reasons to not have confidence in them.
Last night's game was the first time that I was like, oh, maybe the Oilers will actually win the series.
Yeah, last night was definitely a time of change for me as well, right? A very closely played both ways first period. Lots of chances, lots of saves. Third period or second period, entirely different, right? You got those fast opportunities, like you mentioned, that transition game from the Oilers leading to a 5-minute hat trick for Evander.
Yeah.
The Flames have some problems that they need to very quickly remedy. And I mean, we talked about what they are. They've got, I mean, if they can't win next game, it's over. I don't see them winning 3 in a row. So,
well, if anyone can whip them into shape, it's Sutter.
Yeah, I think they're pretty excited for the bag skate they're going to have at practice today. So
that is exactly what's going to happen.
I mean, do you think that's a terrible idea in playoffs? I know that's a good regular season strategy for a lot of coaches. Would you use that one in the playoffs to come in extra tired?
I don't think Sutter cares.
Look, if you didn't want to be exhausted, you should have played better.
Exactly. You want some rest? Play better next game. I'll let you rest.
Winners get rest. Losers don't get to. Yeah, I think I would probably pick. I think this is another 7-game series. I think this one's going to go 7.
I think so, especially with how spicy it's getting. It's good. I think it'll go deep.
Yeah. I'm here for. I mean, what you mentioned, the weird early start yesterday. I am in favor of this series starting at 6:00 instead of 8:00, though, so that we can watch it at normal times.
Yes. Tell me about it. That was actually the nice thing this weekend for how screwy the schedule was. Both of the late games were on at prime time in my time zone, the important time zone.
Okay. Yes, we are. I'm well aware, as I started a podcast at 6:30 in the morning, which time zone is the important time zone. Yes, Nick, we get it.
Until I'm in the next time zone, then that one will be the most important.
Oh, okay. Right. Understandable.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. That's the series. Anything else that stood out to you from the playoffs this far?
It's heating up, man. The intensity's been dialed up. It's been good. It's been fun hockey to watch.
Yeah, I saw someone say that the second round, and I saw this from a few people saying that the second round is not as exciting as the first. I think part of that is that you can forget some of those bad series, right? Like we can easily forget Blues Wild was a trash series to watch because you had all those series go 7 games, but these ones have been close games. I mean, 3 of the 4 series are 2-1. Yeah, Tampa's very possibly gonna sweep. Hopefully that would actually get us some really nice start times. If Tampa could hurry up and finish that series, we could get the Avs game starting early. That's what I want now.
Totally agree.
So if Tampa could just go ahead and win tonight, that'd be nice. And then the Rangers and Hurricanes can hurry up and finish, and then the Avs can hurry up and finish. Then we'll just have well-timed Flames games.
Please, more of that.
Please and thank you. Yeah, I thought this round's been good, though. It's been really enjoyable. We've got close games. We've got lots happening, right? I mean, how often do you get a 15-goal game?
Yeah, 15-goal game and a lot of action. Like it feels like in a lot of these series, rivalries are being built. So there's some good stories coming out of it.
For sure. Well, We also have very close. I haven't had a chance to do the points from game 3, but we still have a tie at the top of our high sticking standings.
Boy. What are we gonna do?
And that's future us's problem. We've got a lot of games left to be played here in these playoffs. But if you head to our Twitter at Fourth Line Podcast, it is still Brody who's in the tie for the lead, but the person he's tied with keeps switching. And I think that might just be the tiebreaker. Who's been in the lead the most days? He's been there. So we'll see how this goes. But you head to our Twitter at Fourth Line Podcast with the number 4. You tell us who you think's going to win each game and the score of the game. We give you points. If you pick the winner, you get a point, which unlocks the option for the bonus points, 1 for each score in the game. If you get all 3 correct, you get 3 points. The winner of this, the person with the most points at the end of the playoffs, gets an NHL jersey courtesy of the Fourth Line Podcast Snides Retirement Tour. Send that out to you. I do know, after sending out our latest one, I do know the NHL is quite backlogged with jersey orders. They said, hey, it ships in 3 to 5 days. And I was like, that's perfect. This guy's going to be at a game later this round. And then they're like, it will be delivered in June. So, which means it's coming, but
eventually,
not by the time you're going to the game. So
something global supply chain.
Right. Who knew? So very excited to send that off to someone at the end of this playoffs. But until then, you'll just have to play. You can't win if you don't play. That's the important thing to remember here. So play. We're also on our website, thefourthlinepodcast.com. And our podcast is anywhere that you listen to podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and the rest. Please subscribe so that we are here for you. We're just waiting. You show up, we're there for you the next day. It will be here throughout the entire playoffs every Monday night, unless it's a holiday Monday with travel things happening. Then we're there really, really early on a Monday morning.
You're welcome, Carl. Now you get to enjoy this whole beautiful day that's happening.
Like, here's what I need you to know. Normally on a Monday, let's say I'm going to work, right? Holiday Monday. Canada has theirs this weekend. US has theirs next weekend. If I was going to work on Monday, I would have woken up at 6:30, which is when we started this show. So it was a little early.
You did good though, Carl. You really came alive for me. Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure. I've listened back to some early morning recordings I've done. It's a different energy.
It is a different energy. You're right. But it was good. And now we get to, we're all set up for tonight's games.
It's true. Tampa, Colorado. You can listen to this podcast before those games. And if you didn't, because at this point in time, you've now listened to the entire show, and if you listened before or after the Monday night games, I hope you did.
Is that it?
That's it.
We done?
We're done.
Oh, and Lucic goes marching in. And when Kadri goes marching in, you better bubble wrap your goalies and don't let them throw anything.